All right. So, as Kevin mentioned in his presentation, there have been recent changes that came out with the single audit process, thresholds, things like that. So, we have just a few slides here to kind of help go through what some of those changes are. And I'm not going to go over everything in detail. Everyone will get a copy of these slides at the end of the seminar this morning. So you can refer back to them for a little bit more detail. But I'm just going to hit the key points here on a couple of these slides. So the change was issued earlier this year, just a few months ago. There was a lot of back and forth and feedback on the proposed changes before they were finalized. But ultimately, what it came down to was what we see now and what we're going to go over here in the next couple slides. There was a memo that was sent out to the federal agencies. It's about 100 plus pages long that helps the agencies kind of identify and be able to react to these changes and what they are. So they are the people that are then going to be writing these grant documents for that you apply for and sign, so they know what changes need to be incorporated in them. The next slide, the next two slides talk about auditor and auditee. So basically, the revisions are affecting everyone across the board. So this slide just talks a little bit about the auditor, what we need to follow, what we need to look for, what we need to do in our analysis. The threshold has increased from $750,000 to $1 million. So when Kevin mentioned earlier about the threshold being $750,000 of accumulated or cumulative federal expenditures, that number is going to turn into $1 million. So the trigger point for a single audit will be $1 million of total federal expenditures. The type A threshold is also going to increase to that. For those of you that have not gone through a single audit, there's different tiers, different levels. Type A, type B. Type A is just the larger programs. Type B is smaller programs. So they're just kind of following the increase in the overall threshold with the type A threshold. There were some changes and kind of revisions, clarifications of the definition of question cost, which is a potential reporting item that needs to be included in the financial statements, and explanations if there are undetermined or unknown question costs. And then it also just acknowledges different terminology in the chapters, the parts, the different chapters of that document. From an auditee standpoint, you can see on the next slide just a handful of things. These are just a few examples. There's more than this, but we pulled out just more of the key areas just to include some idea, some options of what the examples are. So things within changes of the indirect cost, rates that can be used, thresholds for what's considered equipment, which kicks into how you procure that equipment, things like that. So these are a little more from the actual client, our clients, you, the auditee, implementing these changes. And so as far as the effective date for grants that will be written, basically applied for and written, you were going to see these changes in any grant documents that are created and awarded and signed as of October 1st, 2024. The granting agencies are allowed to put in these new requirements in earlier agreements. So it is possible that if you're working on finalizing a grant right now, some of these new requirements may be included in that. But for the most part, we're expecting to see any grant document that's finalized, awarded and finalized after that time period to include these new requirements. So then what that means essentially from an auditing standpoint, We will be auditing these new requirements as long as they're not included earlier in a grant. We will be required to audit these requirements for basically calendar year calendar year 25 and 26, so or fiscal year 26. So still a couple years away from as far as an audit standpoint, but you will be seeing these changes coming here very shortly with the grants that you are applying for and being awarded and needing to implement these changes before we would come in, or your auditor would come in to actually audit your compliance with these requirements. Any questions?